What happens when a doctor and a former Marine meet again after 20 years? You get a second chance. So, in By Lethal Force by Patricia D. Eddy, you have the main character of Joey, short for Josephine, who was engaged to Ford in their early 20s. The plan was for her to finish college, finish getting her degree as a doctor, and then they would get married. Ford is, as I said, a Marine, so he goes on tour. He comes back. They end up in an argument, but they do make up. But he is getting shipped out on another tour literally the next day. And so when she leaves his apartment, she says, "You have to let me in. You have to trust me. But I'm always there for you and I love you." And then she leaves and she ends up in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, here I'm going to put in a trigger warning, okay? Some of the things that happen in this book that I'm going to talk about can be triggering to some people, so if that could possibly be you, please scroll right. Okay, so she was abducted and abused in a lot of different ways. I'm not going to get into it. The book doesn't get into it fully, but you know what's going on. She is eventually saved by the police, and but Ford, of course, as I said, is on this tour, so he doesn't know that it happened until it's too late. So by the time he comes back, she's already disappeared. So she's just given up on them. She does end up becoming a doctor, and then we pick up about 20 years later. She is on a mission with Doctors Without Borders when she is abducted again. Different group, but is abducted again. And so, of course, lots of flashbacks, lots of fear going on. Ford, meanwhile, back in Boston, Ford finds out from her sister that she's been captured, and he's like, "I'm gonna go find her and I'm gonna go take care of her." Which he does. And luckily, this time around, when she's abducted, it's for her doctoral stuff, not the other stuff. But it still, of course, causes a lot. Now, as I was saying, there is a lot of things that can trigger people in this book. The abuse, the fact that she was abducted multiple times. She also, the way she handles her pain is through self-harm, which, so so I will say this. There is like a trigger warning in the synopsis when you purchase the book on Amazon. However, I purchased this book about like a year or so ago, maybe more, honestly. I don't remember. So I didn't remember that there was that. And when I went and looked in the book, I didn't see anything. Now, granted, I could have, clicked, got the, what is it, book description or whatever it is on your Kindle and read it, and I'm sure it was there, but it wasn't in the book that I could find. It could have been there. So for me, within the first chapter, first two chapters, having a lot of that, like, in my eyeballs reading it, I was kind of like, ooh, I was not expecting that. But again, that is because I forgot, the warnings from when I initially had purchased it. So I will say, if you are going to read something, I would definitely reread the synopsis for the book first before you read it, just to make sure, because while I was okay-ish, as I have been dealing with some of my own stuff, so I was okay-ish, but I know other people, if they're taking off guard by that, they would probably not be as okay. So I would say definitely reread synopsises first, and definitely double check to see if there is a trigger warning, just to be on the safe side for you. Now, I read this because the author is part of the Knockback Book Bash, and of course, you know, my goal is to read one book from every author before I go next summer. So I have read another book by her for the previous one, and I don't remember as much from it, but I don't think it had as much necessary for a trigger warning. But she did also say in the book, like, it was very helpful for her to release some of the feelings and some of the darker stuff that we all do feel. So completely understand. And I know there's a lot of people who are not worried about that stuff. I know people who are not affected by that stuff. I know people who need to read that stuff. Like, they need to read to see that it still ends with a happy ending. I completely get that. I'm just saying, be safe rather than sorry. So overall, it was an okay book. I struggled for the reasons I already mentioned. So, like, for me, when I'm taken off guard, it's kind of hard for me to get back into the book. So that doesn't mean it was a bad book. It just was hard for me to get back into it. Overall, though, I do remember liking her other book. So I would like to read something else by her as well. This is not gonna stop me from reading her or any books in the future. I'm just gonna be a little bit careful about reading them. So that is my review. Happy reading.